Okay. We are recording. So I've gotten several reports of issues with logo. I think this is something I'm going to have to fix when I have some time. This was something I don't know if the Delaware folks ran into this, but the problem with the way that is set up is you can't mess with the draw block, with the draw procedure. Can everybody hear me okay? The draw procedure that you're given in the template, this was also true for logo part 1 and part 2, is called when you click the button, draw button. So the draw, if you open up draw button.click, you'll see it calls draw. And therefore, what the idea is you're supposed to modify the body of draw by putting in an algorithm or calling another procedure from there, but you're not supposed to rename it or copy and paste it. That's where the problems come in. If you copy and paste the draw procedure definition, it automatically changes the procedure call. And I'm going to demonstrate this actually. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to change this before the summer's out, but I imagine this could be a real frustration in the classroom. So let me share my screen here. Van, are you there? Van is the one who was most recently having this problem, but I know Andrew also had it, I believe.
I am here, and I would recommend that you call the procedure that you create to draw a square, start with the word draw, as in draw square, and I think you'll see the problem occur.
Aha. So even if you call it, even if you don't touch it, but you just name it draw square, it changes it, huh?
I believe so.
That sounds like an App Inventor bug, not just a bug with the way the template is set up. But let me share my screen, and I'll show you this together. Those of you who haven't had the joy and pleasure of messing with this will want to see this. So am I sharing? Let's see.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, share. Desktop. Share screen. Okay, let me go to App Inventor now. Okay, I'm in App Inventor. I'm going to have to hide some of this other stuff. Okay. So let's see, is this the right template? No, this is the one I was messing around with. Let me get rid of this one because I'm going to go back to part 1. Well, maybe I should do part 2 because that's where this was happening, huh? Yeah. Let me see if I have a logo with params template. Here we go. So this is the template that you were loaded in when you opened up App Inventor, and I've expanded my blocks here. But so what I'm talking about is the button draw procedure. I mean, the button draw click event handler calls the draw procedure, which is over here, right? So watch what happens if I copy and paste this. And then I decide I'm going to rename it. So I'm going to get rid of this. Now, do you see what happened over to draw, button draw.click? Because I deleted the original draw procedure, App Inventor automatically changed the name of this to none. So this is one way the problems could creep in, okay? I'll go back and make this draw again. I'll just rename this draw, and I'll name this draw. I'll call this draw. And everything's back to normal again, okay? But if you, so this is the way the problem comes in. I think the fix I'm going to try to do is I'm not going to give a draw procedure. I'm just going to leave this block open in the template and have you and the students put your algorithm in there and make your own draw procedure from scratch and call it from there. So this will be open and you'll see these changes happening. Now what Van is saying is that he thinks the problem is by defining something called draw square. So if I name this draw square, draw me a square. I don't see that causing a problem yet, but let's see. If I get rid of this now and I call draw me a square from here, everything is still good. But
what I saw when I did exactly what you did, which was to expand the blocks, what I saw was that when draw button, the brown one, had inserted in it already a call that said draw square, and the L was empty, which was giving us the error that it was missing a parameter. So all I did is I slid that call draw square out of it and then just went from there exactly like you just described, and it worked fine.
Well, see, I think I can let me try to duplicate that problem. I don't think there's a problem when you initially open the template. That's what you're looking at here. And draw over here was just plain old draw with no parameter in it. But let me see if I can get that to happen. So I have my draw procedure. Initially comes like this, right? And so let's see.
Hey, Ralph.
Yeah.
One thing that happens that I noticed that I think Tony was just talking about is when you copy a procedure, like if you were to copy that call forward pixels 10, when you copy that, the 10 kicks out, and you have to manually put it back in.
Right. So here's another way I can make a problem. I can say I'm going to put an input parameter here. Watch. Okay, and now you see it's an empty parameter in the button draw. So that's why the way it's set up, you can't make any changes to what's called the signature of this draw procedure. Okay? And so that's, but I mean, I don't think you were deliberately trying to do that, but it's just not, it's just something we're going to have to fix, I think, to make it less likely that the template, the built-in stuff can get messed up. But let me see if I can cause the thing to happen in another way. So I duplicate draw, and I decide I'm going to make this have a parameter. I'm going to name this draw me a square, and I'm going to give it a parameter. And now I've got something like what I saw in Van's code, which was a draw me a square being called over here with an empty parameter slot. And, if I go back and name this draw, it doesn't fix it because this has already been changed. I mean, I think that's possibly what might have been going on. Although, I don't discount what you're saying either, Van. It's possible that it happened in some other combination of things. But in any case, this is a problem if I don't get a chance, the problem, I mean, I could change the template in a half an hour, but all the videos are based on this template in the lesson. So I'd have to change it and then go back and redo the videos. But I think it's worth doing because several of you have this problem, and I'm sure students will have this problem.
This seems like the same problem we had when people did Logo 1.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same problem. So I would have to change both templates. But now that we at least know what and by the way, if you scroll down in the workspace, I have all these windows in my way. Yeah, notice I'm getting these warnings over here on the very bottom. Can you see those? Those are due to slots with no value in them and unattached blocks. And so when you see that, that usually the warning is innocuous. It usually is because of some innocuous situation like an unattached block. So let me see. Where's my scroll bars? This is an unattached block, right? This is an unattached, or this is an unattached block. But this is the one that's the real problem, the one with the missing value in the slot. Because when you click that button, that's going to cause an error to occur, a runtime error, which is what people were seeing. So anyway, I just want to point that out because I know it did come up. I sent out an error message, but it was kind of late in the day when I figured out that this was happening to more than one person. Other than that, though, I think our agenda for today is to look at what you worked on today was logo part 2, and then the revised search algorithms and sorting algorithms lessons, which were non-programming lessons. So any discussion of logo part 2? I'll stop sharing my screen now if I can find the controls.
A quick question about your pacing guide. It does not match what I have.
It doesn't?
No, it does not.
Huh. So maybe Delaware set up their own, or Pauline set up a separate one for Delaware?
I don't know, but I'm looking at for tomorrow. You have the 4.6 flip coin. We do not have that scheduled.
Okay, so I added that into this yesterday. I remember I talked about this.
We talked about the search algorithms revised, yes. But and again, I see it changed on yours, but it's not changed on ours.
Right, so I didn't know that you had a separate one.
Okay.
I mentioned this change. I thought I mentioned this change yesterday, and I showed it to you, but I didn't have you actually do it. I think it would be good if you looked at it at the experiment, because it is a different kind of lesson from a lot of the other lessons. It's very experimental, not theoretical, not app inventor. So the idea is you'll run an app to flip a coin a lot of times. There's some spreadsheets that'll help you tabulate the data it'd be good if you checked it out to make sure everything's working. I think it's a good lesson. And I don't think it should take that long, so it won't. The only other thing we have tomorrow is the explore task, right? So I don't think it'll lead to an extra long day or anything tomorrow. Okay, should I stop sharing? Or is there anything else you want to see? Okay. So how did other than that bug that I showed you, how did the logo lesson go?
The only question I had was the circle one.
Uh-huh.
Was it implied that it should have been a 36-sided polygon, or that's just basically it? Were we just supposed to play with the sides? The way the questioning was a little awkward.
Let me bring it up to look at it. From the assignment, you mean? Let's see. That was exercise
Number 5, I believe.
5. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could. The suggestion there is you could try a 36-sided polygon. If you get your polygon method written correctly, then a 36-sided polygon is starting to approach something that looks like a circle, right? Is that what you all experienced?
Yeah, it looked pretty much like a circle when I reduced the length of each side.
That was a problem. There should be a note in there somewhere to reduce the size, because you get some weird looking thing and you're very frustrated and you try everything and all of a sudden you reduce the size to 10 to size 10 pixels instead of 40 or 50 that we've been working on, and all of a sudden it looked perfect. But
Yeah.
beyond like 12 sides or 13 sides, all of a sudden the whole thing looked like it blew up, and you're searching for an error that wasn't actually there.
Oh, we could say that, but don't you think it would be better for the students to play around with it and figure that out?
Well, except when I tried it, I tried 36 and it blew up on the screen. And so I thought that number was a mistake. So I actually went and I put in other values that looked more like a circle than 36, because 36 looked like it just exploded. And I didn't realize I should have changed the length of the amount. And so I don't know, the way that question's worded, it is kind of confusing. Even if there's a disclaimer that says if it doesn't look right, what could you modify to make it look right? Or because at first I thought there was a typo or something.
Yeah, so it says here, this exercise might require some trial and error to get the number of sides and the length of the sides right. It does mention that you...
So why is 36 in there, though? Is that how many it should have? Or is that just a suggested area to start from?
That's just a hint.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if you could have... So before that, they did a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and an 8-sided, and if you do that sequence of things, you can see things are starting to look more and more like a circle, right? I guess you could say try a 16-sided. But as you do that, if you're not changing the length, your objects are getting bigger and bigger, right?
Well, I went from those numbers and they got bigger and bigger, and then you put the 36 in, and it didn't turn into a shape. It just turned into a bunch of scratches all over. And that's where
it's actually probably just, isn't it just drawing off the screen, off the canvas?
mine looked like a picture frame around the canvas with a bunch of lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so you couldn't really tell what it was doing.
Yeah. Well, so I think I'm inclined to leave that alone and let you guys deal with this in the classroom, however you give hints or not give hints. I mean, you could say, don't pay any attention to that 36 thing. What do you think you have to do after you do a 6 and an 8 to get something that looks like a circle? I think what's shown there is that what you end up getting if you change it to 1, is it 1 pixel per move? You get that little circle? The one that's shown in the handout?
With the 36 with the circle, sorry, just I would have probably done more suggestions. What happens at 16? What happens at 20? Instead of just giving 36 right away. That's just my own opinion.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe we can put something in like, as you might be starting to suspect, as you increase the number of sides of a polygon, it starts approaching more and more to being a circle or inscribing a circle, right? Like that. And then see if you can find some parameters that will draw something that appears to be a circle.
I like that idea. I mean, I think when you say 36, like Eric is pointing out, students are going to hone into that number right away. And I think the idea of keeping it more open allows for more discussion.
Mm-hmm. So don't put 36 in there?
Well, I don't know. I designed mine so that I was given the inputs of the number of sides and then the length. I didn't care about the angle. I computed the angle based on the number of sides. And
Right.
So I know with my own students, I probably would strongly suggest they start off with a line length of 50, and then they'll see very quickly that it draws it off the canvas.
Yeah.
And then they will intuitively correct it for the next shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then get them to play with the idea of the length of the sides, the number of sides, and are you going to compute the angles or declare it as an input?
Yeah. So I mean, I thought you had to. Did it say that you had to have 2 parameters for the polygon?
Yeah.
So polygon. Oh, so you had the side as a parameter?
Yes, I had side and length. The length of the sides and the number of sides.
Yeah. So the way it's described here, it just has a polygon with a parameter n. You had to, you're pursuing the, oh, no, it does say you need two procedures, N and L, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I actually did that as well.
So, right, you need to, I think Pat's got the correct definition of the procedure. If you're given the N and the L, you need to use the N to determine how much to turn on each iteration, right? That's what you're saying, Pat?
And it says that really in the task. I mean, it says hint, 360 divided by n. Like, I think that kind of.
Yeah, that sort of gives it away. Yeah. I think it's necessary to sort of give that away. I mean, some students will figure that out eventually, but some might figure it out right away too. But I think it's okay to give that hint. Do you agree with that? Giving them the hint that you have to divide 360 by the number of sides.
Mm-hmm. I think it says that in the polygon one. Yeah.
I'm saying, do you agree that we should give that hint?
I mean, I don't know if that hint's exactly necessary. I would use this as an opportunity to kind of reach across and teach a little bit about another discipline by having them look at formulas for circles, or not for circles, but for squares, triangles, things like that first, so that they can make that extrapolation themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you can maybe figure out ways to do that in the classroom as you're teaching this. So were you all able to do some kind of fancy shape of your own?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think this is a good lesson. I mean, I think it gets the idea of why I think students want to use parameters as a result of the frustration of trying to do this in Logo Part 1 without parameters, right? And want to use procedures here. Problem is it doesn't really, and they can actually see the power of it. They can see the abstraction going from the pattern you need to draw a triangle to square to pentagon and hexagon. There's an abstract pattern there that they can see in the algorithm itself. So there's all kinds of good stuff that could come out of this lesson. Students do seem to enjoy it when I teach it, and nevertheless, it doesn't, as you might expect, it doesn't lead to everybody being procedural abstraction crazy when they go to write their own apps. It's just much easier to copy and paste until you get into trouble with copying and pasting. So you still have to remind them and maybe require them to use procedures where they're needed in their own apps. Otherwise, you get a real mess when you actually look at their code for their apps.
I would suggest that we might offer the students a hint about debugging on the designer side versus the block side, because I'm not sure that's intuitively obvious to all new coders. I can share my screen quickly just to show what others are talking about in terms of the crazy shapes we get. So the first time I saw this, I was not quite sure if the error was in my blocks code or if it was on the designer side, and eventually I was able to adjust the designer side and debug it.
I don't see what you mean by just the designer side.
My Android was starting in not quite the center, and so it was running into the walls, for lack of a better word, and shattering my polygon. It took me a while to realize what was going on. So even just a hint that says you can debug your programs from either the designer or the block side might be just the right hint.
Oh, so what you did when you say, but what did you do to debug it from the designer side?
I believe I was adjusting the default sprite coordinates, X and Y. I could be wrong.
But when you hit the reset button, it put it in the middle anyway.
I believe so, but I posted to the forums about some trouble with the reset button as well. So.
Right, but I mean, if you inherited that list of commands, okay. So if we could, we can't do this in App Inventor. What I would prefer to do would give you a template where you can't even look at reset or draw or any of the built-in handlers that you get. Those are just fixed. So you'd have to just sort of deal with that as your language. That's your language. But if you wanted to start your drawing from the bottom left corner of your screen, you could just simply position the sprite there using a move sprite or something like that at the beginning of your procedure, right? So there are ways to deal with it even with the sort of built-in assumptions that exist in the template. And you know that's another way to approach it. So you wouldn't necessarily have to change it in the designer. You could actually put code in that started off your drawing by positioning the Android dude wherever you wanted him on the screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you know why? Just out of curiosity, I mean, because I was looking at Nick's post on the group, and it's the exact same problem that I had yesterday. Do you know why calling the reset procedure in screen initialize is not resetting the sprite?
Why it's not resetting the sprite? Let me see. If I go to, I'm looking at the reset. Let me share my screen again. Maybe you can point out what you're looking at. Oops. Share screen.
So when we start the app, the sprite is in, I believe it's the lower right-hand corner. And that's just like, you know, what's set for the sprite. And then when you click reset, it centers onto the middle of the canvas, which is in the code because you have the canvas divided by 2, similar to what we did for Palm. But in Nick's example that he posted on the forums, he put that call to reset in a screen initialize block, but it's not centering the sprite when the screen initializes. I'm wondering what the issue is there.
So here's the reset procedure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you hit reset, what this says is clear the canvas and put the sprite at the width divided by 2 minus,
like the center, right? The center of the canvas.
Puts it at the center of the canvas. So what you're saying is it doesn't actually do that when you hit the reset button?
No, it does that when you hit the reset button. But what I'm wondering is if you were to put a when screen initialize block and put a call to that reset procedure in that block, the sprite is not moving to the center when the screen initializes. And I'm wondering why that is.
I mean, here's an initialize here, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying that's not, that is putting it in the center though, right?
It doesn't.
It is not.
When you hit the reset button, you see the sprite jump to a new location. I tried and played with that quite a bit in the last half hour, and I thought it might have been something with the Z-axis. It might be compensating for something being visible and then hidden.
I guess I still don't understand what's going on, so I'm going to actually run this.
Good. It's the exact issue I was having with the Palm thing.
So when you have, let me see if I can, I'm testing out a ZenPad tablet.
So when you initialize it, you'll see the sprite in one location, and when you click reset, the sprite moves to another location.
Okay.
That shouldn't happen if the procedure reset is truly being called in the initialization of the screen.
Well, it is being called, but then display is being called. What is display?
Yeah, maybe that. I didn't look at display.
Where's display?
It's right there in your center of your screen. Stop. To to the left of your mouse.
It's just a debug. Just puts up some debug. So, okay, I'm going to, so in my case, it came in the bottom. You can't see that, huh? It came on the
Bottom right.
bottom right.
Yep.
Is that where it should be?
Push the reset button.
It puts it in the center.
That's what we want it in the center on initialization.
So why is that reset, the call to reset, not happening when the screen initializes?
I'll bet it's happening, but something else is happening too. So I'm going to take display out of there and reset. I mean, reinitialize. You can't see my thing, but you know what's showing up because you've been doing it. Okay, so I'm scanning again. Nope, it's still on the bottom right. That is strange. Aha, I see what you're talking about.
I moved the Android.move2 command. I copied it and put that in the initialization, and that didn't work.
I think I know why. I think the canvas hasn't been initialized yet. So, when the system starts up, it's got to initialize certain, aha, I know why. Yes. I think here's a possible fix. I'm going to change this to screen width and screen height. Let's see.
Well, that might be wrong for the height because the screen's taller than the canvas.
Well, it'll be roughly right. It'll be roughly correct, right?
Well, Nick's thing has almost 3 horizontal arrangements, so it's taking up a good deal of the screen.
Okay. All right, so did you see what I did? So in other words, what I think's going on is when you initialize an app, the app inventor has to initialize the components. And maybe when initialize is done, the canvas hasn't been initialized yet to the point where the width makes any difference. The width is an actual value. And if you want to, another way to look at this would be to actually put in a notifier and display the width of the canvas when you initialize. So let's see. I need to reset my connection.
Do you think the use of the notifier would delay the app enough to actually load the screen of the width of the canvas?
That's always a possibility, but that's, relying on timing of that sort is probably not a good idea. It would be better to, if the, let's see what happens. It would be better to find some other way. Yep, it occurs roughly in the center, a little down from the center.
Is there like an initialized canvas? I can't click on my screen, but is there a block that we can put before the call reset?
Yeah, because in the call reset, you have a canvas clear before you set the spot. Could that be a canvas something else?
No, I mean, you need to be able to do reset anytime during the app, right? Not just on initialization.
But I'm saying before the reset procedure is called, is there like a canvas enable that we can put on the initialization block?
See, I don't know
if that's,
I don't think that's going to work because I don't think anything, we could do something like if I put up here, try this, put in inside initialize, put in a notifier that will show you the canvas and just display the canvas width. Let's see what value you get. Canvas dot I'm just going to display the canvas width. Okay. So I'll call this again. I mean, I'll reset it again. Reinitialize. Too bad there wasn't a way to force it to call initialize, yeah?
You know what you can do is if you drag the sprite on the designer, it actually resets the app. My students discovered that.
If you drag the sprite on the what?
On the designer side, if you drag
you can. That's true. That's a good point. Yep.
That reinitializes it.
So it does say that the canvas width is 600. But yeah, for some reason it's not. How about height? I'm going to try Kristen's suggestion now and go to my designer and move the sprite over here or something. Yep, and that causes it to restart. But it says it gives me values, valid looking values for width and height of the canvas. So I don't completely understand why it won't set the maybe the Android dude can't be moved in the initialize. It's something like that going on. But that answers your question, right, Liz? And
yeah, and that Pong problem I had yesterday is the same thing. So I just changed my Pong app to have the screen height and screen width nodes.
Yeah, I mean, so you could do it with the screen dimensions. For some reason, I don't completely understand this, but I don't know exactly the procedure that's being used when an app loads up. But it takes time, and certain things happen in a certain order, and maybe that's another modification I should make to the app. Use the screen parameters to locate it in the center. Except you don't want to. Yeah, except you have to adjust for all the widgets at the top of the screen, right?
So Ralph, on that note, you changed canvas width and height to screen width and height.
Yeah.
So I'm now wondering if I could have taken the screen height and subtracted my horizontal arrangement heights.
Yep.
Does that sound like it'll work?
Yep, that would work. That's what you have to do. It gets a little complicated if you've got lots of components on the screen. You've got to subtract their dimensions from the screen's dimension. That should work because, as you saw when I just did that, it did know the canvas height and width. So that should work. Anyway, hey, it's always cool to learn new stuff, yeah? New deep knowledge of App Inventor. So okay, any other logo questions or observations? What about the sorting and searching lessons? Let's see, search algorithms and sort algorithms. So search algorithms was revised to use a POGL activity. In the previous version, we basically the teacher plays the guessing game with them and then just talks to the class as a whole and reveals the binary search algorithm. We're trying a POGL activity where we don't tell them how to guess efficiently, and we're told by the POGL folks that they will figure that out themselves. If one group doesn't figure it out, another group will, and it'll be a better way to learn that than being told by the teacher. So that was the reason for the change there. What did you think? I know you didn't get to try it, but you at least could read it and see what they had to do.
I liked it.
I thought it was too quick. I mean, it seems like a really quick lesson, just the two search items.
You mean the search and the sort?
Well, the sort's a separate lesson, no?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, right. The search is the binary and then the
linear. That's it. That's why it seemed kind of short to me for a lesson.
Yeah, well, it may be less than 45 minutes, but it isn't. It's going to take, you could give them, how much time do you think you have to give them for the POGL?
Well, I don't think, I think it's pretty intuitive to high school students, how they're getting toward, the secret number or finding a word in a dictionary.
Yeah, I think that part is, you're right, they should figure that. But what the time could be spent on is getting them to write a good pseudocode for it, right?
Yeah, I think with the search algorithms, like the numerical one where you're divided in half, it's nice to think all high school kids know that. I would guess they don't, though. And if they did know that, explaining what they were doing or why they did it that way, they wouldn't know it. Oh, well, somebody told me this trick. So spending the time to let them say, well, why are you doing it that way? And explaining it by either writing the code or sharing, takes up time. I would personally combine the search and the sorting in the same day, but I also have the kids for like an hour and 20 minutes or something. So those two lessons I would do in one day, but I have the time to do that.
Yeah, another thing. So I think once they figure out the algorithm, which you're right, I think most high school kids are going to get that. Focusing on writing a good pseudocode for it that's clear and that works. And then also being able to figure out how many guesses it would take for different size ranges of numbers, right? That's basically the log, but so here you could tie it into math, or you don't have to, though. You can just do it in a sort of common sense way where, well, how many times do you have to divide a number in half before you get down to 1 as a way of figuring the log of that number, and then how many guesses would be required, right?
And I think the other thing that would be helpful there, and maybe it's just notation, and I've been a math teacher too long, not a computer science teacher very long, but that's log base 2, which is, I think very common to computer science teachers, but most math teachers would write log. If they wrote log 5, they're talking log base 10. And the same thing with their calculator. So any student who's taken Algebra 2 would not look at what you wrote or what was written in that lesson as log base 2, I don't think.
Doesn't it say log base 2 in the lesson?
It just says log.
Okay. But is that what mathematicians use for log base 2, or do they use?
No, they would use log to mean log base 10. That's the common log.
Okay.
General.
My experience teaching this has been not to go into the math. It just is confusing for the students. The other thing I would suggest is if you think it's going to be too short, have them write the game to start with. I've done that in the past, and then this becomes more even exploratory after that, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Right, but I think getting them to, they're supposed to figure out in their POGL groups how many guesses it would take for 1 to 200 or 1 to 500. And I'm sure they'll figure that out too, but then getting them to see the general pattern is always a good thing. The more of these abstractions they can master, and the whole idea of starting to think that way, now you're thinking like a computer scientist or a mathematician, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we're, hopefully going to get some of that happening. But I think you can stretch it out to 45 minutes, even if they get it quickly, the algorithm. So, okay. What about the sorting exercise, sorting lesson?
I like the idea of using cards. I was wondering, as I was doing it, I know like in an edX course that I took, we talked about like Big O and efficiency and things like that. And I know that those kind of go a little bit beyond what this course is, but I don't know. I didn't feel like efficiency was touched on very much. Like it was mentioned. Notice the video was faster when you sorted the cards this way. But I feel like efficiency is an important thing, and I was just wondering if it's.
Well, it's coming up because 5.6. Is it 5.6? And this is actually a place where we're cutting back. 5.6. And by the way, I mean, I don't completely understand the pacing guide. I mean, it seems to jump all over the place. But 5.6 is coming up next week. Or is it next week? It's not even, is it not even on here? 5.7, I think it's being changed to 5.7 and not 5. Analyzing algorithms. That's where we talk about something like Big O, except the College Board doesn't list Big O as a learning objective or topic. So we don't actually mention Big O, but we do talk about what we do in analyzing algorithms is we graph how long it takes based on how big N is for the different algorithms. What you're going to find out for sorting, it's a nice algorithm is N log N, and the bubble sort, which was used there, is N squared. So we have N squared algorithm, we have an N log N algorithm there, and we have a linear. Bucket sort is linear. But we do get into that in another lesson, yeah.
Ralph, one of the things that I use in the non-AP computer programming course I teach is that CS Unplugged has a very good section on sorting, and what it actually has you do is I created a whole group of identical envelopes with different weights in them, and then I went to my science teacher buds and borrowed a bunch of their balances and had them go through the various sorting mechanisms using unmarked envelopes and that weighed differently, and it brought it home to them. It took a whole period, but that CS Unplugged is a very good resource for non on the computer activities, and it does bring home the whole search and sorting algorithms pretty well, I found.
I think, yeah, I mean, so we use some of their materials, so feel free to incorporate those as you wish. What you're just describing sounds more like a search problem, where you have to find the heavy envelope in a set of envelopes by using
but they're supposed to sort them and get them in order from lightest to heaviest, so it's actually sort of both sorting and searching.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
It would help with the abstraction too. Putting a number on the envelope saying what the weight is would then, you could reinforce that. I keep coming back to that.
Uh-huh.
Ralph, another idea is that what I use is a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then you split them up into groups, and then they you calculate the swaps and the compares. Yep. And then, you put them up on the board and kids have a good time with it, in a certain amount of time they have, and calculate how long it took.
Yeah, I mean...
I see that bubble swap is the worst, so...
Yes. Yeah, in the analyzing algorithms lessons, we do something like that in the lecture. So, and encourage you to do similar kinds of things to what you're describing for activities. Counting comparisons, right? How many times you have to compare in this algorithm versus that algorithm. But yeah, I mean, and also talking about the binary search and linear search, you can get them starting to think that way in those lessons right before you get to analysis by asking them questions about efficiency, Liz, right? You're tempted to do it right there because they're thinking about it. They're asked to do it in the fastest way they can come up with. So, right? I imagine you're going to have some arguments in class about some of them. But on the other hand, I find for some college students, even linear search and sequential search, after a whole semester, they still don't see when to use one and when to use another when you talk about a list of numbers with them. I think if you ask them how to search a dictionary, they'd know. But you say, okay, you got a list of numbers in random order. Is it linear search or binary search? Some of them get that, an uncomfortable number, get that wrong, in my opinion. But so it's non-trivial, even though it seems fairly simple to us. Other thoughts about those 3 lessons?
I thought it was interesting to see the radix search sorts talked about. Because when we use a dictionary, I was wondering if there was an analogy for the searching. Because when we use a dictionary, we look at the first letter in the word, and then we go to that section of the dictionary. We don't split the dictionary in half and then go to the middle and try and find it. Is there an analogous for a search that's like a bucket search?
Well, I would say that when you look up something in a dictionary, you're doing some variation of binary search, where you're using the first letter to estimate how much to cut where to cut into the dictionary. Instead of 50-50, you're cutting it based on the first letter. So that's more like, do you see that? I mean, do you sort of see it that way, as sort of related to binary?
Yeah. But it was teaching the old computer science, AP computer science. We never even talked about a radix sort. So for me, it was great to have something that related to the way people actually do things, not just the way a computer would do it.
That's right. I mean, if you're going to sort a deck of cards, that's probably the way you do it.
Right.
Another reason I thought it was useful to have that is because it's linear.
Right.
And I think, but one of the concepts involved there is you might get some students who have trouble with the point that it's not a comparison sort. Because they're saying, well, aren't you looking at the rank of the card and to decide what bucket to put it in? So there, I tried to be careful in the way the algorithms are described in terms of talking about a comparison sort. Means you're comparing 2 cards to each other, not determining what the rank is. And what you can point out if you get into that discussion is you can do radix sort on anything. It doesn't have to be a number, and that's where it will fit in a bucket, because you can change, for example, if it's a letter, you can use its ASCII code to identify what bucket it goes into. So there's no if statement involved. It's just take this number and put it into the bucket with that index on it, right? Or take this letter and put it into the bucket with that ASCII code on it. So it's just math. It's not if this is greater than that, right? Like that going on. And that might be something you'd have to talk to them about. They may not see it that way. Do other guys agree that could be a place where you might have to, go into some discussion with them and distinguishing those 2 types of sorts? Okay. Other thoughts on these lessons? We're getting close to the end of and then we may want to spend a couple minutes talking about tomorrow's assignment, which is to do the explore test. Do you need anything else from me in order to do that? Are you ready to go?
Do we just pick any 2 to grade? It doesn't matter which ones.
I'm sorry? You can pick any 2 to grade. Yep. And you've got all the materials you need. Has anyone actually taken a look at it already to see whether you have everything you need? And
I tried it today. Everything seems like it's there.
Okay, good. If you have any questions, you had a problem?
Yeah, because it doesn't offer 0 as an option in the grading. And then also when you step through 1 and you submit it, when we did the create, it said, would you like to submit a second one? And it doesn't, so you have to like click the link a second time. So that to me is less problematic, but I think there's times that the students would score 0 and it's not an option.
What do you mean? I don't see what you mean with that it's not an option. You mean the form won't let you put a 0 in?
That's correct. You have to select from a list of the actual 4 grades that are provided in, or the 3 numbers that are provided in the rubric.
Oh, well, that Pauline set up that form. Let me look at it. I could adjust that because we certainly gave 0s.
Yeah, I think there's one that deserves a 0. So.
All right, wait. Where's this form? This form. So is it choosing from a menu?
Correct.
Where I'm looking at the form.
And it says like row 1, row 2, and then you have a drop down.
Oh, I see. You have to choose 4, 8, or 12.
Yeah, I want 0, 4, 8, or 12.
All right, let me fix that. How can I fix it? Yeah, we all agree that should have 0, right? Should always be an option.
Yeah, because if they didn't do it at all.
Can't I edit this? All right, well, I will. Maybe I don't have editing privileges. I will tell Pauline to change that.
Yeah, I wrote in my description, I gave them a 4, but then I wrote, I actually would give them a 0. So
Actually, let me just send Pauline. Pauline is traveling back today, so she'll be hosting this tomorrow. And by the way, we will spend some time also, maybe tomorrow, hopefully, talking about the create task and your experience with that. Pauline has gotten that together. So explore form. Hi, Pauline. The explore grading form should make it possible to give 0s as the scores in the various rows. So can you edit the drop downs to include a 0 option? Okay, done.
Yeah, and like I said, people are just going to have to click the link twice. It doesn't prompt you to enter a second score like it did the first time. I'm not sure that that's that important, but
you have to click twice. Oh, I see. To do a second, grade a second answer?
correct. It just, thank you, do you want to preview? And it provides a results sheet where you just have to then go back into the pacing guide and click it a second time.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe she'll figure that out too. But. All right. Any other questions or anything about tomorrow's tasks?
Yeah, I had one question. This is Larry. On the Explore, in the Explore 1, it says, it gives you these 4 things to look at, like, that are basically like nanny cam, I mean, not cam, but it's like a way for parents to oversee your, what's going on your phone.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then at least the samples, when I looked through them, have nothing to do with that. So I didn't quite understand the lesson that has those in there. And then,
well,
these Explore 2 samples, or
those are Explore 2 samples. Yeah.
Okay, which gives you a lot more freedom on whatever you want to investigate.
Yeah. Right. So we have Explore 1 and Create 1 are sort of scaffolding, giving the students the chance to work on a project from start to finish of their own choosing, but as practice, not as the actual College Board exercise. So yeah, you won't find any of the samples that are about nanny cam. All right. Any other questions or comments? Requests?
Kristen had an email that she sent out earlier today, and unfortunately, we're not going to have time to discuss it today. I thought maybe I'm unfortunately driving or flying back tomorrow from the conference I'm at, so I can't participate tomorrow. But maybe on Friday we can talk about how we set up rubrics, or what kind of rubrics we set up, and how we're going to grade our students throughout the course.
Yeah. Pauline has that well covered. So
We'll cover that on Friday.
yeah. Which Friday? One of these Fridays. Now, Pauline has that kind of stuff well covered. So it's good that you can hold off on that till she gets back, because she's got a lot of classroom experience and I don't have other than at Trinity. So we'll get to that.
Ralph, one thing I would mention on Friday's lesson, the 7.6 My Directions enhancements.
Yep.
There's it appears to be an error on the video. The first video works just fine, and then it links to videos for other sections. I think it's 7 point, I don't know. I think it's 710 or something. Yeah, it links to like a broadcast hub tutorial videos. So once you click through the first one, you look at the first My Directions video. Unless you fix it in time, everyone should ignore the other videos that are right behind it.
So when I open that up, I just see a preview video and
after you watch, like, I think a 2-minute preview video, it brings up 2 other videos right behind it, almost like a palette, I guess, kind of thing. And those 2 videos are both from Broadcast Hub.
Oh, okay. So is it so that these are errors in the lesson itself?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'll try to take a look tonight.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take a look. All right, folks. I hope the people who aren't saying anything are doing well. I see you there. And if you are having any issues, and just email me, and we've been fairly responsive. So, okay, good work, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you. Hey, Ralph.
Yeah.
I did get that to recreate itself. If you
is this Van?
Yeah, it's Van.
Well, so why don't you show me your screen, and can you share your screen and just show me?
I can try. Let's see what happens. Let's see. We want this one here. So if I create a new procedure, can you see it all right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I come in here and I start it with a capital draw. You'll notice over here, this one.
Oh, wow, yeah. I see. That is...
So if I do draw funny, it's changing.
Yeah. So once you
it sees them both spelled the same, even though I haven't stopped typing.
So can you go back to the original one there?
All right, let's set it back. I'm going to set that back to draw.
Yep.
And I can get rid of this block. And then I'll go back in and I'll create a new.
Does it also happen when you do lowercase?
No, it doesn't. Which is weird because it's written in lowercase there.
Yeah. So this looks like an App Inventor bug. So throw that. Put it back to lowercase and do it again.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Sorry. Now I get what you're saying. So here I do.
If you do draw something else, it doesn't happen on lowercase, but it happens on uppercase?
Nope.
It doesn't happen on lowercase.
It doesn't happen on lowercase.
Well, actually, you've got raw funny there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I didn't think it didn't happen when I tried it with a lowercase. But this looks like an App Inventor bug.
No, and it's going across because I thought at first it was, but it's.
That is weird. Isn't that strange?
So my solution is not to redo your whole thing, just change it something that nobody would use in the beginning of their procedure, like in the procedure name. So, for example, if you called it refresh screen or something like that, then the problem wouldn't occur.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna, I think Beryl, one of the other facilitators at the Massachusetts cohort, recommending leaving the button draw click handler. So copy and paste that. I still worry that even if I change the names, students are going to do copying and pasting, and that's going to,
well, that's
no matter
true.
what I name it, it's going to somehow cause. So you see, it doesn't let you copy and paste. It lets you copy and paste it, but it puts it up as an error.
Right.
You can't have two button draw event handlers in there, so it doesn't really. I don't think it'll affect anything. If I have that be where you have to just put your algorithm or your procedure call, and the lesson will start that way.
Right.
If I have time, that's the change I would make. So even if they fix this bug you found, and I think that's a genuine App Inventor bug, I'll report it. They won't run into problems if they do copy and paste of that, of that or other procedures. They won't have to.
Right. I was struggling with this one, as you could tell from the tone in my emails. I apologize.
Oh no,
drilling down and figuring it out, because
it must be frustrating.
Oh, it is.
And especially when the instructor's going, I just tried it and it didn't happen for me. But we were both right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to
It's nice that we have screen share that we can actually see why we were both right.
Yeah.
We were both right.
Absolutely.
Very good. I'll submit that as a bug report.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Van. You sound like you look like you're sitting out on your porch.
I am. I'm sitting out on the porch and I'm enjoying this very much. Although,
where do you live?
I'm in Norfolk, Connecticut.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's beautiful up there.
It is. It is. But I have to say, it's a lot of work sitting around all day doing this.
Yep, I know.
I got to get out and exercise or do something.
Another week in 2 days.
Yep. Yep.
We'll be free.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Take care. Thank you.
Tony, did you have a question?
Have you been watching the tour?
I have. Not every night, but not all night. But I've been watching. I didn't see last night's. My wife stayed up late to watch it and told me I have to see it. It was quite an exciting finish.
I've been amazed at how exciting it's been this year as compared to last year. Last year it was almost boring.
I read about it beforehand, but then we watched the highlights the other night. So I did get to see, what's his name? The leader, the British guy there. Kumi? Oh, what is his name? The guy who's leading it. Coming down the hill, sitting on the bar of his bicycle, pedaling like a maniac.
At 50 miles an hour, they said.
And it just looked so uncomfortable. And it looked to me like with your legs so bent, how would you even get any power from your pedaling? Wouldn't that?
I don't understand that either. That's a position I've never gotten into. I'll get down low when I'm coming downhill, but not like that. I don't come off the seat the way they do.
What is his name?
Froome was the guy that was
Froome, yeah, Froome, yeah. Not Froome. Froome.
Yeah.
Chris Froome. Yeah, he's won it twice now, right?
Yeah, he's the defending champion, and my wife doesn't want him to win again.
And one year he crashed early. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. He
crashed early and had to drop out. Well, did you see Contador's crash?
Yeah, the first day. That was horrible. I felt so bad for him.
Oh, he went right into a curb, it looked like.
Yeah, and then he went down, and then two guys rode over top of him.
I mean, yeah, it's been. I just can't believe how gutsy those guys are. I mean, going whatever 30 miles an hour, bunched up like that, they're a couple of inches away from each other. Really.
I've only done that a couple of times, and that's very scary being in a peloton that size, because if one guy makes an error, 10 guys pay for it.
Exactly. I mean, I've never done anything like that on a bike. I've done triathlons, and just a couple, and I just hate to swim because it's like that. You all get in the water together, and you're thrashing around and hitting each other. Of course, you're not going to fall down and break your neck, but I'm not good at handling that. I don't think I'd be able to do a peloton.
Did you see when Froome punched that bystander that got too close?
Yeah. And what about the guy who crashed into the float? Oh,
right, I saw that. That was, and he got up and finished the ride too.
Was it the 1 kilometer float?
Yeah, they call them kites, the 1 kilometer kite.
Right. Did he get his time put back?
Yeah, and they gave him the white jersey for that day, but he lost it the next day. So
that was crazy.
It is.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why we watched it.
How did TJ Van Garderen do yesterday?
He's still back in like 10th or 11th place. He's not back that far. I think he's under 2 minutes behind the leader, but he's still, he's in the top 20. If he climbs well, he may be able to get up there and move up.
Yeah, last year he was kind of hanging in there, and then he just ran out of gas in the. Yeah. So it's been fun. You're right. Been pretty exciting. It always is, though.
Yeah, and then as soon as I get done here, I'm heading out to my club I ride with does Wednesday night pizza rides. So we're all going to meet and climb a bunch of hills out here and then go eat pizza.
And where do you live?
I live in Eastern Connecticut. I live in Groton. Actually, East Lyme, not far from Groton. But
okay. I've ridden around East Lyme because we sometimes get a cottage down in Old Lyme. Yeah, it can get pretty hilly around there.
Yeah, there's we're not lacking hills.
What's the fastest you've come down a hill?
I've hit 50 a couple of times, but that's about it. I did a century on a whim in the White Mountains, probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We went through, by not Katahdin, but we went by Mount Washington and through some of the passes there. And coming down one of those, I was doing 40 plus for an extended period of time. Actually was chasing cars. I was on the bumper of a couple cars. That's about it. Getting above.
My forearms aren't strong enough to do that for very long.
Yeah, I don't have aero bars, so I'm just I'm just getting
those the ones like this.
Yeah.
On the front of your.
I just go on my regular front bars. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, have a good ride.
You too, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oops. Oh, I should have ended that meeting. Oh, well.